Hello everybody, welcome to the Redmen TV. My name is Ben Kelly. This is the Liverpool Development Watch. Let's just get right into it. A lot has happened this week, a lot more loan news, a lot more youth team news, all sorts has gone down, so let's just start talking about it. We're going to start with Marko, Grujic, who's been loaned to Cardiff City until the end of the season. They've got about 20 games to play. His agent did say at the back end of last calendar year, that they were going to try and get him a loan deal in this window, and they finally got it. Neil Warnock, Cardiff manager, has admitted that he has to play a certain amount of games before the end of the season. I think it's 14, otherwise the club are financially punished, so he's going to get a lot of time on the pitch between now and the end of the season, which is very, very good. He made his debut on Saturday against Sheffield Wednesday, where I've seen a few clips. He looked quite bright. Obviously, he's a man-mountain midfield, so he's going to have a dominant presence. But he did almost score. A good long-range effort was pretty comfortably saved from the Sheffield Wednesday goalkeeper. But all the same, it's good to see him having that confidence to take on a shot from such a long range on his debut in the Championship. So hopefully we will see him develop over the next few weeks until May. And I'll bring you updates every week on him. Good luck to Marko. Jurgen Klopp did have a bit to say about it in his press conference leading up to the Swansea game for the first team tonight. He said, we had a long conversation about it and he's looking forward to it. He wants to be a Liverpool player and I want him to be a Liverpool player. He gets the opportunity to play at Cardiff. It's a difficult league, as we all know. They are in a good position and maybe they will have playoff games, which will be a fantastic experience. So it's a very good decision. I am very happy for him. And yeah, like I say, good luck to Marko Grujic. I will bring you updates on him every week. We will move swiftly on to Ben Woodburn this week. As you may have heard, a loan move for him was completely ruled out, meaning he won't be leaving Liverpool in this transfer window. He was included in the under-23s or under-18 squad this weekend, so there's been kind of rumours going around that he could make the bench for the Swansea game tonight, but we'll have to wait and see. Perhaps he's just a backup sub and Jurgen Klopp didn't want to risk him playing in either of those games just in case there was a late injury to the main first-team squad. It probably also means as well that we are unlikely to sign a Philip Coutinho replacement in this window, which is, I think, everybody wasn't hoping for that. I think we were all hoping that we'd spend some of that 142 million that we brought in for Philip Coutinho and perhaps bring in some fresh talent. But nevertheless, Ben Woodburn staying at Anfield in this window. Let's see if he can get a bit more game time because he's had limited first-team opportunities this season. It'd be good to see him get on the pitch a bit more. Other than that, it was a pretty uneventful week for the rest of the loan players. Divock Origi played a full 90 minutes for Wolfsburg in a 3-1 loss at home to Frankfurt. He didn't score or assist and he hasn't done now for 8 games. I'm starting to get a little bit worried about Divock Origi because he's playing as a central striker, he's playing out wide on the right. It doesn't seem to be working for him out there at the moment. He's gone a long time without contributing to any goals, contributing is in scoring or assisting. Just wondering now whether Liverpool, obviously they'll have somebody watching him every week, all of his performances. I can't watch every minute that he plays because I just simply don't have the time. But is it now getting a little bit worrying that he is not performing to the standard that he was towards the beginning of the season? He had kind of hit the ground running, playing for them, and now he's a little bit more stagnant in his progress. And I just wonder if he continues like this, will Liverpool look to move him on permanently in the summer? Because really, he's really not turning into the player I think we all expected him to, especially when he hit a little bit of form last season around the December time. I think he got 6 in 6 games. But we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully his form picks up a little bit over the next few months so that we can reassess that sort of situation at the end of the season when he's recalled. Ryan Kent was an unused sub at a 0-0 draw for Bristol City with Derby County on Friday night. Very boring game, nothing much to report there. However, we hope he'll be involved on Tuesday when Bristol City face Manchester City in the Carabao Cup. Of course, having been on loan earlier this season in Freiburg, Kent isn't cup-tied for this, so he is eligible to play. Hopefully that he will be involved in that big occasion at Ashton Gate, and that will be a massive, massive thing if they can get themselves through to the Carabao Cup final by beating Manchester City. What a fairy tale that would be, and what a good thing that would be for him to be involved in. Obviously, we want him to be riding high on confidence so that when he is playing, he's doing the best he can and he's performing to the highest level possible, and we can look to have a good player on our hands when we bring him back next season if we're going to involve him in our squad. Shea Yojo wasn't in the Fulham squad at all as they beat Burton Albion 6-0 on Saturday afternoon. I did do quite a lot of research behind this on Twitter and on the internet last night. I couldn't really find a reason. There doesn't seem to be any injury, but there are a few just small rumours circulating that he could actually be recalled this month or recalled and reloaned out to a Premier League side, which I think would be handy for him, even though Fulham are in the push for the promotion playoff spots, which again would be a good experience for him if he can get into the playoff games, perhaps have a game at Wembley. That could be on the cards. But he has been in a very good form. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Liverpool wanted to reload into a Premier League club to see how he would do in the Premier League. But again, you know, why fix what isn't broken? He's playing very well at Fulham in the Championship. He's progressing well. Do you really want to halt that progress and perhaps loan him to a club in the Premier League where he may not get as much game time? I don't know. We just have to watch this one. Hopefully there'll be a bit more to talk about next week. We shall wait and see. Naby Keita served a one-game yellow card suspension as Leipzig lost 2-0 at home. Was it at home? No, it was away to Freiburg. Nothing much to report there, except for the fact that it's 160 days until Naby Keita pulls on a Liverpool shirt as it stands. And that is your Keita countdown for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Hooray! Conor Randall played a full 90 minutes for Hearts at right wing-back as they got a late win against Hibs in their Scottish Cup game on Sunday. They're through to the next round. And finally, young centre-back Corey Whelan was an unused substitute for Yeovil in their 2-1 loss to Chesterfield on Saturday. Now, of course, he's still a young player. He's not expecting to get loads of game time, I don't think, at Yeovil. But they are involved in a massive cup tie on Friday night at home to Manchester United. Maybe he'll get time on the pitch then. I don't know if he will in such a big game, but hopefully he'll be involved. That'd be good to see. We will now move on to the U teams. Steven Gerrard's under-18s went out in extra time of their FA Cup youth tie with Arsenal at Anfield on Saturday. I got press access. We went, myself and Ross. Tried to do a bit of filming there. Didn't really get many opportunities to get into the tunnel and things like that. Sat in the main stand about 3 rows behind Steven Gerrard for the entire match. It was a really interesting experience because there was very little crowd there. They only opened the Kop. With the majority of the ground being empty, you could really get a taste for everything going on the pitch and around the pitch. So being sat 3 rows behind Steven Gerrard, it was a good opportunity for me to sort of listen to him and see what kind of manager he is. Because when I go to the games at Prenton Park, I'm sat on the other side of the pitch to him, so I can't really hear that sort of thing. However, this time, I could watch him a little bit more closely, and I can tell you, he's a very, very loud and vocal manager. You know, you get passive managers like Arsene Wenger and Louis van Gaal who kind of sit there for 90 minutes and are very, you know, not very mobile on the touchline and things like that. Steven Gerrard didn't sit down, basically, for 90 minutes. Well, 120 minutes, obviously, because it went to extra time. He didn't sit down for that whole time. He was always up on the touchline, talking to his players, barking out instructions, and that's exactly what I want to see from a Liverpool manager at any level. It was really impressive. You know, you could hear some of the things he's saying. He's talking to his players all the time in terms of guiding them. If there's a mistake, he's criticising them and helping them develop their play in the game to improve upon that next time. Unfortunately, it did go out. It wasn't the greatest of games, to be honest, I've got to say, even though it's 3-2 sounds like a thriller. But Arsenal scored kind of early on. Liverpool got a goal either side of extra time, really, just before half-time, just after half-time. Then Arsenal scored again very late on, but there were long periods of the game really that weren't the most exciting. Obviously 2-2 going into extra time, then Arsenal got a pretty jammy winner in the first period of extra time. There was really late push for an equaliser in the second half, but they couldn't quite do it. Everybody was really tired. Obviously, it's a bigger pitch than Prenton Park than perhaps what they're used to. But it was a really good experience, I think, for those under-18 players. There were some really good standout players. Again, Curtis Jones got both goals for Liverpool. Absolutely outstanding. The first goal is such a good finish. It's pulled back. He's sort of on the edge of the penalty area. He just slots it home in the bottom left-hand corner. He is such a cool character in those situations. Really promising-looking player. 2 losses on the bounce for them, though, and having not lost all season, I suppose it's a little bit like buses. They want to get out of this rut as soon as they can, but they've got to wait nearly 2 weeks to do so because next up for them is Stoke City at home in the Under-18s Premier League on February the 2nd. The Under-23s, though, were comfortable winners in their Premier League Cup game versus Charlton. The recalled Tony Gomez, who's been out the previous half-season at Forest Green Rovers on loan, was recalled, well, the loan expired on the 1st of January. This is the first chance he's had to play back in the side. He scored. Harry Wilson scored and Bobby Adekanye got a brace. Again, Harry Wilson looking so sharp and dangerous every time he gets the ball. Another good finish from him. There's nothing new on Harry Wilson's loan situation, but again, I'll bring you news as it comes to me. I just want to take a closer look at Harry Wilson in the first prospect report of 2018. We had a lot to cover last week, so I didn't really want to include this feature and make the show longer, but we're going to find time for it this week. He's 20 years old now. He's been at Liverpool since he was under-9s and is captain of the under-23 side. He's a very good captain at that. He's scored 10 goals in 11 Premier League 2 appearances this season. Last season, to put that into perspective, he scored a total of 12 in 18 appearances. So already he's on the way to beating that tally in less games so far. He's the youngest ever player to play for Wales. He made his debut for the national side in 2013, aged 16 years and 208 days. That was against Belgium. Ben Woodburn gave him pretty close competition, but of course he still holds that record. He's only ever made one first-team appearance, which was the FA Cup replay against Plymouth last season, came on as a substitute, and I think that's part of the problem for him at the moment. That's why he's sort of fretting over signing a new contract, because he's thinking that first-team opportunities are limited for him, and rightly so. You'd think at age 20, if it's going to happen for him, he'd be knocking on the first-team door a lot more, and I feel like I've said this before on this show, but he's such a talented player. Unfortunately, we are at a point where we have such a talented squad, a squad full of so much quality, that he's just struggling to really break through. You know, if you look at the squad of perhaps a few years ago, when after Suarez had left that 14-15 season where we had Balotelli and Barini up front, he'd have perhaps found himself with a few more opportunities if those were the players he was competing with, but that's not the case at the moment. So we'll just have to wait and see what he does with that contract situation. In fact, there's a fantastic documentary on LFC TV Go. Now, it's a £5 a month, but if you happen to pay for it, then I would go and recommend checking it out. It's part of a series called The Academy, and it's basically a 20-minute documentary about what's next for him. It discusses him in quite good detail. So if you have the time, if you have the service, if you're paying for LFC TV Go, just go and check that out. It's quite a good way to learn a little bit more about him. We are top of our Premier League Cup group on 7 points, the same as Stoke and Bristol City. Charlton are a little way behind that. Doesn't look like they'll be making through. Just a reminder that the format for this competition rather is a group stage where you play everybody twice, and then it's just a straight knockout from there on in to win the cup. Next up for them is Derby County at home in the PL2 on Saturday. Still flying high in that league. Neil Critchley still holding on to all his players. They've not quite all gone out on loan just yet. The good news for him is that he'll be keeping hold of Ben Woodburn, it looks like, until the end of the season, which means he'll have that dangerous player in his side to perhaps push for a league title challenge, which is good news for him. The latest Rhian Brewster update, nothing for the last few days now, but he travelled to London this week for tests on his ankle, and he still hasn't really been confirmed how many games he'll be missing. Stephen Gerrard was actually hoping to have him in the squad for Saturday for the Arsenal game in the under-18s, but obviously that didn't happen. So if that was the sort of attitude, maybe it won't be as long as first feared, but we'll just have to wait and see. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes this week's Development Watch. Thank you very, very much for watching. I will see you next week. Follow me on Twitter at bkelly776. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment about what you're thinking about all this loan and youth team news, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.